Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off here talking about RetroHub, which is an emulation front end that uses the Godot engine, and it just got a brand new update. At the time of filming, the latest version is 0.2.2 beta. We've got some bug fixes and some brand new features. You can now directly open an emulator from the emulator settings screen. And they added a few more popular emulators, including MAME, Flycast, RPCS3, and MGBA, and even more. RetroHub is 100% free. It's open source. It's available for Mac, Windows, and Linux, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below. Feel free to check it out. Moving on, and we're talking about EmuDeck, and this is pretty amazing news if you want to see it on a different platform. This is a tweet right from EmuDeck today, and they say this should speed up our Android development. Thanks AYN for this nice Odin 2. So I think it's safe to say EmuDeck is headed to Android. And speaking about the Odin 2, if you plan on emulating Switch games and you're interested in the Odin 2 and you're debating between the basic, Pro, and Max versions, you may want to see this tweet. It's right from Joey's Retro Handhelds, and he says, for anyone considering base versus Pro for Odin 2, know that I clocked Tears of the Kingdom at 72% memory usage on the Pro, meaning roughly 8.64 gigs of RAM. And that was just in the intro area before the overworld. So if we go on ahead and take a look at the specs here for the Odin 2, the base says it's got 8 gigs of RAM, which means it's going to struggle heavily with just the opening sequence for Tears of the Kingdom. And that's with the current state of Switch emulation on Android. But moving on, and we're talking about a brand new Game Boy emulator. It's called GoBC, and it just popped up on GitHub. As you've probably guessed based on the name, this emulator is written in Go, and it just had its very first release on GitHub. Now, I would argue this emulator is still in very early stages of development. Even though they've already got their first release, there's still a lot of work to be done. I mean, they don't even have sound yet. And apparently the developer has only been working on this one for a couple of weeks. So anyways, here for future features, they've listed sound and the ability to use real cartridges and implementing all MBCs. And there are a few known issues here, one with Link's Awakening and a couple with Pokemon Crystal. Next up, we're talking about Nintendo, and Nintendo is doing Nintendo things again. Here's a tweet right from Nintendo of America today, and they say, as of early April 2024, online play and other functionality that uses online communication will end service for Nintendo 3DS and Wii U software. So here is Nintendo's official website, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below. Feel free to check it out. It says right here, announcement of discontinuation of online services for Nintendo 3DS and Wii U software. And if I do scroll down, there are a couple of things that are remaining up, but who knows for how long. And that's the Pokemon Bank and Poke Transporter. Fortunately, and we've talked about this one in previous videos, but we do have Pretendo, which is a free and open source replacement for 3DS and Wii U servers, and it is being actively developed. And Pretendo says they've been made aware of Nintendo's plans to shut down Nintendo Network in April, but they have begun discussing their development roadmap internally to accommodate this. As a PSA, Pretendo says if any community, speedrunning or not, is in a situation like this where historic data will be lost, like leaderboards, please feel free to reach out. We have already helped archive other games' historic data, such as Super Mario Maker, and are interested in trying to help other communities as well. And on top of that, if you care about any online game for 3DS or Wii U, just start capturing packets. This is invaluable for getting these games back online, which I believe requires a modded system. If you are curious on Pretendo's overall progress, I'll drop a link to their website in the description below, and feel free to check it out. There are a bunch of different games here listed for the 3DS and Wii U, some obviously faring a little bit better than others. Next up, we're quickly talking about Diablo IV, and it looks like Diablo IV is heading to Steam on October 17th, just around the corner. You can already add it to your wish list. Next up, we're talking about Ubuntu-based Linux distribution Elementary OS, and Elementary OS has just released version 7.1. This version comes with a background and auto start portal right from the get-go, so you can help control your startup programs and stuff that's running in the background. Elementary OS is also going to feel a little bit snappier. It's based on Ubuntu 22.04.3 LTS and features Linux kernel 6.2. Next up, we're talking about a newly announced game being published by 3D Realms called Core Decay. There is no release date just yet, but if you take a look at the gameplay, it may remind you of a whole bunch of games you've probably played in the past. They're calling this one an old school atmospheric immersive sim, and it's got my attention. And interestingly enough, 3D Realms is also publishing a game releasing soon called Phantom Fury, and a demo is available. I'll drop a link to that one in the description below. It looks kind of similar. And speaking about demos, next up we're talking about Robocop Rogue City, and this game that's set to release on November 2nd has just released a demo on Steam. I'll drop a link to it in the description below and feel free to check it out. And speaking about releasing soon, next up we're talking about Hitman Blood Money Reprisal. And this is a tweet right from Feral Interactive, with new features and gameplay improvements inspired by later Hitman games. This stealth action classic makes a triumphant return on iOS and Android this autumn, and Nintendo Switch in winter. And speaking about iOS, last up here we're talking about the iPhone 15, which arguably has faced its fair share of challenges since releasing. From people reporting very shoddy build quality to temperatures too hot to hold, the iPhone 15 has had arguably a lot of problems, and it appears the overheating may be coming to an end. So those of you running iOS 17, you may want to think about updating to iOS 17.0.3. Apple says this update provides important bug fixes, security updates, and addresses an issue that may cause the iPhone to run warmer than expected. That's a really nice way of putting it. May get up to 115 degrees. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.